This is Newcap News with Nicole Stilger.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Multiple charges have been laid against a 26-year-old Lloydminster man after a fatal collision east of Lloydminster last week. Brandon Stuka is facing a number of charges, including criminal negligence causing death, dangerous operation of a motor vehicle causing death, flight from police, and possession of property obtained by crime. 3 Edmonton women died as a result of the collision and a 4th remains in hospital. Stuka remains in custody and is scheduled to appear in court in North Battleford tomorrow. Well, property theft is on the rise in the border city, and that includes vehicles. The RCMP are reminding residents to follow a few easy steps to ensure your vehicle is not a target.
The biggest thing that people can do to ensure that their vehicle doesn't get stolen is not to leave the keys inside the vehicle.
Now, it sounds like common sense, but the majority of vehicles that are stolen are because the keys were left inside. You should also take your valuables with you, and fancy add-ons like rims can also increase the risk of your vehicle being targeted.
Larger trucks, whether it be for parts or for just a ride to and from different destinations. Those are the main reasons why vehicles get stolen.
If your car is stolen, you should immediately report it to police and think twice before sharing it on social media.
There are lots of things that you can do yourself to try and help with that. We don't always encourage those because sometimes they can actually affect our investigation negatively. So whether you're posting it to social media, there are cautions to that.
Outgoing MP for Battleford's Lloydminster, Gerry Ritz, says the U.S. president can't tear up NAFTA. This as he's reflecting on his 20 years of service. He's also concerned about the Liberal government strategy in the ongoing negotiations. Gerard Lampow sits down with the veteran politician.
It's like changing a chapter in a book. You've gone from this book to this book and changed a chapter as well. We were so focused on the Ottawa life and everything that revolved around that. Many trips all over the world. Talking about Canadian agriculture and trade issues, signed a deal with the European Union, signed a deal with the Trans-Pacific Partnership, other direct countries, Korea, Colombia, and a number of them that I was very much involved in. Prime Minister Harper gave me a fairly good workload when it came to logistics, getting the railways working, agriculture itself writ large, a little bit of overview into health. And then, of course, the trade agenda, which I shared with a couple of different trade ministers.
Ritz says he supports the new Conservative leader Andrew Scheer as the party is rebuilding to retake Ottawa in 2019. He remains concerned about the Liberal government's agenda.
They're forging ahead on legalization of marijuana, whether that's good or bad. The police are saying they won't be ready for it. The provinces, all save one, have said we won't be ready for it, but they're also putting their foot down and saying that's the date. It's a hard date. We're going to go. So, society will not be prepared and ready for those massive changes to come. We're seeing them dithering on the trade file. They can't seem to decide what exactly they want to bring to the table when it comes to NAFTA, one of our most important agreements with our largest trading partner. They're adding extra chapters on gender equality, Indigenous affairs, climate change they want highlighted. All of those are laudable goals, but they really have no place to be front and center in a trade agreement. They would ice the cake, but first we need the cake. So they're putting the emphasis on a lot of different things, almost setting themselves up for failure. We're seeing them go through all kinds of contortions to re-kit our military when they haven't really decided what our military is going to do. They talked a year ago about a peace mission. We haven't found out what that is yet.
Let's stick to NAFTA for a moment. What would you say is key? Because you've given me some wonderful sound bites over the years. And the situation is, do you walk away from the table?
Well, any thickening of the border, whether it comes to people moving back and forth or goods moving back and forth, is detrimental to Canada. There's almost $2 billion a day goes back and forth across that 49th parallel at some point, and we have to maintain that. There's over 9 million jobs in the U.S. and several million jobs in Canada that rely on that two-way trade. Products going south to be processed and moved out into the global economy. Products that, in our pork, we export 50% into the U.S. and we bring back 50% because we like certain cuts. So you need that integration strengthened, not weakened. Of course, we all listen to the sound bites that President Trump's putting out saying, he's going to tear it up, and he really doesn't have the capacity to do that. Their latest thing is putting in a 5-year review mechanism. That's not a bad thing in and of itself, as long as it doesn't lead to termination. The problem is other economies around the world are growing and expanding as well. China, first and foremost, is putting together trade deals with other countries. And if we don't have a strong North American core, we will swiftly be overrun by those emerging economies.
Gerard Lampow, Newcap News.
Well, Lloydminster is in the final stages of bidding to host the Saskatchewan Summer Games. Council resolved this week to put the city's name forward as a candidate for the Games in 2020.
We have an excellent array of facilities.
That's just part of the pitch the city will make when the Games Committee visits late October during the Pinty's Grand Slam of curling.
So it'll be an excellent opportunity to see the volunteers that the city presents, the city being alive and very active, and I think that'll be very important for them to see.
A resolution from Council was necessary as part of the bid to accept the risk of incurring a debt. However, since 2010, no host city has been in the red from the Games due to a Saskatchewan Sports Council operating grant, not to mention having thousands of visitors in the city.
It's just a huge economic benefit to add 1,500 participants potentially, as well as all the supports, the coaches and the parents, the grandparents, and guests that'll be here.
The last time Lloydminster hosted the Saskatchewan Summer Games was 2008. In an effort to give back to the community, Vivid Salon is offering a new service this year to a brand new set of clients. Kira Lyons explains.
When you think of donating, you usually think of donating things like food and clothing. But this year, Vivid's doing something different but very familiar. They're providing free haircuts to the olive tree.
It's an opportunity for us to give back to the community, to be able to do something that we do every day in an environment where people that we maybe wouldn't see normally are able to experience what we have to offer.
A lot of people don't think about haircuts. It seems like maybe a superficial thing or an unimportant thing, but just having your haircut can change, your self-confidence or the way you, your ambition for the day. It's just an uplifting thing.
The fourth Friday of every month, Vivid employees donate their time to serve food and cut hair, which started when the community needed it most.
At that time, the community had suffered greatly in the downfall, and people were looking for jobs. People were searching for opportunities, and something that is a reality is, the more confidence you have, the more opportunities that come towards you.
It's so great to remember that there's a whole city of people with different backgrounds and different hopes, but we all have the same dreams, right? And it's just so important for us to have that tie together.
In addition to the free haircuts, Vivid has also donated a hair washing sink that will remain at the olive tree for clients to use. And in celebration of their 10-year anniversary, they will be making a monetary donation as well. Kira Lyons, Newcap News.
Well, if Elvis is always on your mind, you can throw on a pair of blue suede shoes and shake, rattle, and roll down to the Vic Juba Theatre tonight. All the way from Australia, Mark Anthony is in town to give Elvis fans an intimate performance spanning the entire career of the King.
My older brother, he came to me and he said, "Hey man, we've got to do something with you. Let's do an Elvis show, and let's do it right. Because we know we'll never get sick of Elvis music because we're both Elvis fans."
From makeup to vocal warm-up, it takes Anthony about 2 hours to fully transform into the King. And of course, you can't forget about the most important part, the hair.
Lots of hairspray. I use enough hairspray. I kill the ozone layer all on my own. Well, me and the other Elvis guys together, we use a lot of hairspray.
And ultimately, the hard work happens off the stage, according to Anthony.
We do all this work. We do about that much work to be on stage for that long, but it's all worth it. Those 2 hours on stage, it's like the biggest payoff in life.
Mark Anthony will be playing tonight at 7:30 at the Vic Juba Theatre. Well, ahead of Orange Shirt Day on September 30th, students at Lloyd Comp were gaining a new perspective on a topic that might be relatively new to them. In this week's Beyond the Classroom, we see how the high school is joining the conversation.
Annie Batiste is talking to students at Lloyd Comp about reconciliation.
What it is, how can we implement it, and really the youth perspective on reconciliation.
The Indigenous Relations Director with Big Brothers Big Sisters Saskatchewan, she says this topic is new to a lot of people, but rooted in very old conversation. The goal of her presentation is for students to know they have a place in reconciliation.
Think about what does reconciliation mean in their own lives, that there's a personal and collective response and action that can be happening on a youth level, on a community level, on a government level.
Ali Skeenum says reconciliation is about repairing broken relationships and informing people that might not understand what happened to the First Nations people of Canada. For her, this topic hits close to home. Earlier this year, she shared her experience with intergenerational trauma and how her father was affected by family members taken to residential schools.
His mom did go, and the past generations of his family, and how it kind of like passed on each generation, and how some of my siblings turned to drugs, alcohol, and stuff like that, and how I wanted to break that.
This timely presentation comes ahead of Orange Shirt Day, a chance for people to come together in the spirit of reconciliation and spread awareness, something Mequon McAdam says is very important.
There's a lot of people who don't understand, and they're still stuck in that state of where they know what's happening, but they don't know what to do, and it's good to give them steps.
For those in attendance, the message resonated in powerful ways.
The children who were stripped of their culture, as a student myself, my culture is very close to my heart, and when I learned about that, that was kind of heartbreaking for me.
And for Baptiste, she's thankful to get the conversation started.
Acknowledging our past, awareness of our past, acknowledging the harm.